Alright, let's get right into it. Randy Orton isn't the same anymore, and it's honestly painful to admit that. Watching him now feels like seeing a legend trapped in a body and company that don't let him be who he used to be. The spark that made him dangerous, unpredictable, and magnetic has faded, and while age and injuries play a role, the real problem runs deeper. WWE has turned one of the most naturally gifted, cold-blooded wrestlers in history into a safe, predictable nostalgia act who exists more for pops than purpose. Every time he walks down that ramp now, it feels less like the Viper and more like an exhibit, something you look at, cheer for, and then forget the second the next segment starts. There was a time when Orton had an aura that nobody else could touch. He could slither into a segment, hit a single line, and make you feel uncomfortable in the best way possible. He didn't need to scream or overact. His calm menace made you believe he could snap at any second. That quiet danger is gone. What replaced it is a man smiling through his entrances, milking crowd chants, and pretending to be the same predator he once was, even though the fire behind the eyes isn't there anymore. It's not his fault. It's the combination of time, pain, and a company that doesn't know how to write for someone like him anymore. The back injury changed everything. He wrestled for 2 decades with one of the cleanest, most precise styles in the business, but that precision came at a cost. His spine went through hell, and by the time he had surgery, people close to him weren't even sure he'd walk back into a ring again. When he finally did, everyone was thrilled, but that celebration blinded people to what he really looked like in that ring. He's slower, more cautious, and clearly protecting himself. Every movement feels thought out, almost mechanical, because he knows one wrong landing could be the end. You can't blame him, but it's sad to see a performer once known for smooth, effortless flow now moving like someone afraid of their own body betraying them. The RKO still pops the crowd, but even that looks different. It's more of a tribute move now, not the sudden, out-of-nowhere strike it used to be. The way WWE has booked him since his return hasn't helped either. Instead of leaning into his limitations and crafting smart psychological storytelling around them, they've stuck him into generic matches where he plays the smiling veteran, the guy fans chant for out of respect instead of fear. The creative team doesn't seem to understand that Randy Orton was never meant to be loved. He was meant to be respected through fear. He was supposed to be the guy who would RKO you even if you were his friend. He thrived in chaos and betrayal. Now he's being booked like a friendly uncle of the locker room, shaking hands, cracking smiles, doing comedy spots, and feeding nostalgia. That's not Randy Orton. That's a shell of what he once represented. Even the commentary has shifted the narrative. Every time he wrestles now, they remind us about his longevity, his legacy, and his new lease on life after injury. It's nice, but it also kills the illusion. Randy Orton never needed to be humanized. That was his whole appeal. He was supposed to be this cold-blooded, calculating sociopath who didn't need redemption. Turning him into a comeback story removes everything that made him unique. He's now part of the same sentimental storytelling that WWE loves to use for aging stars. The "he's doing this for the fans" narrative. Orton was never about that. He used to be the guy who didn't care about the fans. Now he plays to them like a nostalgia act, trying to squeeze one last big pop out of every arena. Physically, you can see the toll. His shoulders don't rotate the same. His back stiffens when he takes bumps, and his timing, while still better than most, has lost the snap that made his matches so fluid. Watching his old matches now makes you realize just how much of his prime was spent perfecting details others ignored. Every stomp, every glance, every pause used to mean something. Now, those same pauses feel like moments to catch his breath, not mind games. There's a difference between control and restraint, and Orton has gone from the former to the latter. The saddest part is that fans still want to believe he's the same. They chant, they cheer, they yell RKO every time he lifts a hand, but deep down, everyone knows this version of Orton doesn't scare anyone. He's respected, sure, but feared, not anymore. He's been turned into part of WWE's feel-good machine, where everyone is celebrated instead of hated. Even when they tease a heel turn, it feels empty, because you know they won't commit. They'll tease it for a few weeks, maybe have him hit one guy with an RKO out of frustration, and then go right back to pandering. WWE doesn't have the guts to let him be truly vile again. The modern product is too sanitized for that, and that's another huge part of the problem. The current WWE environment, the company that once let him burn down Bray Wyatt's compound, RKO Stephanie McMahon, or punt legends into oblivion, now operates like a polished entertainment brand. Everything's safe, overproduced, and filtered through PR. There's no room for darkness anymore, and Orton's character doesn't function without that edge. The Viper gimmick is built on unpredictability, on that feeling that you never knew what he'd do next. When everything is scripted, when every word is approved, and when every storyline must end with a handshake or redemption arc, a character like Orton suffocates. He's also surrounded by a completely different locker room dynamic. The younger guys coming up now grew up idolizing him, which shifts the energy. They treat him like a god, and WWE books him like one too, but not in the way that works for storytelling. They don't build threats around him anymore. They build respect stories. Every feud is about someone trying to earn his respect, not take him down. That kills any sense of danger. When opponents see you as a hero, not a threat, your character dies. The Orton of old thrived on resentment, on conflict. Now everyone just wants to shake his hand and call him a legend. His rivalries now feel hollow compared to his prime. Back then, his feuds with Triple H, Edge, Cena, and The Undertaker felt personal and violent. They had stakes beyond wins and losses. You believed that Orton hated those people. You could see it in his eyes. Today, everything feels too polite. He cuts calm promos, makes mild threats, then has formulaic matches that end with mutual respect. It's the same WWE pattern that destroys every veteran's edge near the end. They don't want villains anymore. They want marketable nostalgia. Even the RKO, once one of the most electrifying finishers in wrestling history, has lost its magic. They've overused it for cheap crowd moments, turning it into a meme rather than a weapon. It used to come out of nowhere. Now you can see it coming from a mile away. It's no longer a sign of danger. It's a punchline WWE uses to get a guaranteed reaction. Every time they play up the RKO out of nowhere joke, it chips away at what made the move so special. It used to mean someone's night was over. Now it's just part of the show. His body language tells the whole story. There's still pride in what he does, but it's mixed with fatigue. He's trying to live up to his own legacy while fighting against time and creative apathy. You can see flashes of the old Orton in his eyes sometimes. Those brief moments when he hits that cold stare before an RKO, or when he drags an opponent like he's about to snap. But the follow-through isn't there anymore because he's not allowed to unleash it. WWE doesn't trust that kind of darkness anymore. They're too busy protecting their PG image and corporate partnerships to let anyone go full heel in the traditional sense. It's crazy to think about how much his aura used to carry entire shows. There were nights when Orton was the reason people tuned in. He was the measuring stick for timing, storytelling, and in-ring psychology. Now he's used to fill time or to give the fans a feel-good moment. That's the most damning thing of all. When a performer who used to define danger becomes a comfort character, the decline isn't just physical or creative, it's emotional too. You can tell he knows it. He's self-aware enough to realize he's not that same guy. You can see it in interviews and even in-ring expressions. There's a certain sadness behind the professionalism. He's doing his job, playing his part, but that spark of joy he used to get from playing the villain is gone. Maybe it's maturity, maybe it's weariness, but it's definitely not passion in the same way. Orton used to thrive on chaos. Now he looks like a man tolerating predictability. Even when they tried to give him serious angles recently, like when he was involved with Cody Rhodes or the Bloodline stories, it felt like they never went all in. Orton could have been the guy to completely flip those storylines upside down. Imagine the old Orton manipulating everyone, playing both sides, striking when it mattered. Instead, they used him as a background piece, a nostalgia player who pops in and out to fill a segment. They treat him like a guest star in his own industry. The tragedy here is that Orton still has the mind to create magic. His wrestling IQ is through the roof. If WWE actually gave him creative freedom, he could reinvent himself again, not as the same young Viper, but as a cold, methodical veteran who outsmarts everyone. They won't though. They'd rather keep him safe, smiling, and selling merchandise. WWE doesn't take risks with veterans anymore. They protect them to the point of irrelevance. There's also the reality that his body might not let him go much longer. Every time he takes a bump, it looks like it hurts more than it should. He's holding himself together because he loves the business, but you can see the cost. That's the painful irony. The man who built his reputation on precision and control is now wrestling like someone barely holding on. It's not his fault, it's the price of being too good for too long. Fans don't want to admit it, but the truth is that Orton's run right now is mostly symbolic. He's there to represent longevity, not danger. He's there to make people remember what wrestling used to feel like, not what it still can be. The passion from the audience is real, but it's rooted in nostalgia, not excitement for what comes next. People cheer for who he was, not who he is. That's why every return pop fades quickly. There's no follow-up, no evolution, just the same old Orton, doing the same poses, saying the same lines, in a body that can't keep up with the illusion anymore. And that's the harshest part. WWE won't let him evolve. They don't know what to do with him beyond legend status. He could be mentoring heels, building dangerous alliances, or mentoring someone into becoming the next Viper-like figure. But instead, he's stuck in the middle of mid-card stories that waste his presence. He's not old enough to retire, but he's too legendary to rebuild from scratch, so they just leave him floating, relevant but directionless. The company that once used him as a symbol of danger now uses him as decoration. He's their safe nostalgia card. Whenever ratings dip or a pay-per-view needs buzz, they bring him back for a quick reaction. It's not about storytelling anymore. It's about the quick fix of hearing fans cheer one more time for a man who deserves far better than this slow fade into mediocrity. That's why Randy Orton isn't the same anymore. It's not just time catching up to him, it's WWE smothering his edge. It's the injuries forcing caution. It's the booking turning a viper into a pet snake. It's the fans loving him too much to boo him, and the company too scared to make him dangerous again. The legend's still there, buried under layers of nostalgia and PG polish, but the real Randy Orton, the one who made you hold your breath every time he appeared, that man's gone, and what's left is a safe, marketable shadow of one of the most gifted wrestlers to ever do it.